Hi, Mary Fisher at the Stitching Post, and I wanted to introduce you to my very good friend, Jane Hopperich from Maryland. Say hi, Jane.
Hi.
This is Jane Hopperich. She is a pal of mine and she is still a Handy Quilter national educator. And she will be with us March 12th and 13th teaching domestic quilting. The first class, the one on March 12th, is moving along in your free motion journey. It is about if not the beginnings of free motion quilting, it's that next step. What do I put in this block or this triangle or this border or this sash? As well as edge to edge quilting on your domestic machine. Her second day, and frankly, the day, her second day is feathers. And in the world of quilting featherers, I would tell you that Jane is at one of the top in the industry. She is a very good quilter and a really awesome teacher. I had the opportunity to teach with her a couple of times and to support her in class. Where she was the teacher and I was the help, and she's an awesome teacher. So we're going to go straight to talking to Jane about her quilting life and look at some of her quilts. Hi. How's it up in Maryland?
Everything's good.
Good.
It's sunny
Good.
today, so we're happy with that.
It's sunny here too, and we're pleased. We had some ugly weather, and now it's beautiful, almost spring. So before, I want to ask you a little bit how you got started in finishing your own quilts. What was your step? Were your steps? First, you were a piecer, you were a top maker. How did you get to finishing your own quilts?
Well, I was a single mom with 3 kids, and I found out very quickly that I could not afford to send out my quilts to be quilted by other people. So I learned how to free motion. I taught myself how to free motion quilt on my domestic machine.
So you started there.
I did start there, and I read what I could read about it, and I dropped those feed dogs and went to town, and that's where I started. And I still do. Even though I have a long arm, I still like to quilt on my domestic machine at times.
Yeah, and do you have? I can't remember. Do you have a stationary long arm also?
I do. I have a Capri, a Handy Quilter Capri. Yep.
That's a pretty awesome machine, isn't it?
That
gives you that big depth of throat and high speed stitch regulation. So that's a pretty awesome machine to, if you're interested, if you're living in the land of pushing fabric, that's the machine to push it under.
It is. When I first got my Sweet 16 in 2009, I could not believe all the extra throat space I had and how much easier it was to move that fabric. So yeah.
Right. And do you like so in your domestic quilting, you don't have stitch regulation. In the Capri that you do you have a preference? Or are you happy in both worlds?
I am happy in both worlds, but I tend to use them for different things. I tend to use my manual mode or on my domestic machine, I am the manual mode. So because I started with that, I tend to go that side of it. But there are times when I use stitch regulation too.
Like maybe rulers or.
Yeah.
So I know you hold a few titles besides Handy Quilter National Educator and all around awesome blossom. I think you're also an ambassador for Island Batik.
I am. Yep.
So that
happened
awesome.
This year. That's been fun. We have a monthly challenge each month, and we have to use most times we have to use specific fabric that they've sent us. So that's kind of fun. It's making me piece more than I had been. So it's making me, because I'm more of a quilter than I am a piecer. So it's pushed me to piece a little bit more.
Yeah, so, me too.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I get you. So you're an ambassador for Island Batik. You're a teacher, an educator for Handy Quilter. You also teach in other venues. Tell us about some of the places you've taught since the Corona.
Well, before Corona.
Right. Tell me about that.
I taught for the past 5 years for MQX in New Hampshire. I've taught for AQS at several of their shows for the past 5 years. And since COVID hit, I have developed my own classes to teach virtually, and they've been very successful. I've had quite a good following with my classes on Zoom. And I've also taught for Road to California this year virtually.
That's
I
a fun
taught
show.
It was fun. It was fun to do it, and everybody was so sweet. I've never been to that show, so it was fun to be able to teach for them virtually. I taught for the sewing and stitchery expo in Washington State,
And all
and
that was done virtually.
all done virtually. Yes.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and I just did a 4-day class for AQS. So which
Oh,
was over last weekend.
is that going to be in a show? Is that part of a virtual show,
It
or
was
is
a
it just,
virtual, yeah, it was a virtual learn at home
yeah,
program. So they had access to I put together a whole video of classes of my whole class in videos, and they had access to it for about 4.5 days, I guess, over the weekend. Yeah.
that's nice.
It was good. It was a good thing. And everybody's been really excited and happy to learn. And the great thing too is that they're at home on their own machines instead of learning a new machine at a show and trying to learn the class. So that's
Right.
been kind of nice. People have been really liking that.
So you've really been able to kind of work out the bugs, as it were, with virtual education, to be able to share the information. The way we're doing it is we're having the students come in, you're streaming you in, and myself and another facilitator will be walking amongst the students, kind of trying to be your eyes and ears and hands and whatnot. So you feel like that you've pretty much ironed out those particulars.
I think so. For the
It
most
sounds
part,
like it.
there's always new stuff every day, but I think we've kept up with things.
Good, good. Now let's see. You've done HQ Live. Have you done some Handy Quilter videos for them?
I have done 3 HQ lives for them, and I guess that's probably about it. But you can
Okay.
find them out on the Handy Quilter site.
Right, right. And the cool thing is, even if I know that it translates, a lot of what we do translates, whether you're pushing the fabric under a stationary needle or moving a machine over stationary fabric. A lot of what Jane teaches translates to that. And I've sat down without my books. Darn it. I meant to show you, be able to show everybody your really awesome books. And if you want to come in the store, I'll show you, but I forgot to sit down with them. Jane has self-publishes a series of workbooks for free motion quilting, and they take you from a beginner's perspective through intermediate, advanced, and then a separate one for her feathers classes. And they were some of the first books I purchased as I was becoming a free motion quilter. They're really a great exercise. You don't have any sitting there, do you? Let her look around.
I might. Let me see.
We're going to let her look, because they're really, really awesome. And what I like about them is they have this like acetate overlay. There it is.
So here's the advanced.
Uh-huh.
And then let's find. So here's one of the workbook pages. And over top of it is like Mary said, a clear plastic overlay. So you can put that down and you can use your dry erase marker and follow the arrows and practice and get your muscle memory down.
Yeah, they're really awesome tools.
Thanks.
If somebody wanted to purchase those, how could they do that?
They could go to my website at stitchbystitchcustomquilting.com.
And follow you on Facebook at Jane Hopperidge or Stitch by Stitch Custom Quilting.
Yep, it's Jane Hopperidge, Stitch by Stitch Custom Quilting, and I'm on Instagram at Jane Stitch by Stitch. And I also have a YouTube. And I also have a YouTube channel.
Oh, and she has a YouTube channel. Awesome. Okay, let's talk about finishing quilts. What is the part about finishing quilts that you love the most?
The quilting.
So,
All of
do you have a technique or ruler work and free motion? And I mean, what is your favorite? Maybe it's designing. I don't know. What's your
uh
favorite in the steps?
probably the actual quilting of it. And I go so much in between ruler work and free motion that I probably like it all the same. I just,
Is that right?
yeah,
Well, it shows. It shows.
thanks.
Um, is there any part of the method of quilting in quilting that you have found a challenge for you to learn?
I think when I was first starting out, there were designs that I had a hard time, where there were certain designs I just couldn't seem to get. And then after practicing them and trying to figure out a way that it would stick in my mind, just one day it would click. And I just, so I do try and come up with some ways to help students through that hurdle, because I feel like, just take, for instance, ribbon candy. I feel like some people have a really hard time getting that. I had a hard time getting it in the beginning. So I show people how I learned how to get that design down. So it looks pretty good now. And it became,
Actually, you taught me. You
yeah,
taught me the same thing. We were teaching together, and I said, like, my ribbon candy always does this, and you said, no. Think about it this way. So you
yeah.
taught me. So that's really awesome. You know what? I have a whole slideshow of some of your quilts that I
Okay,
thought I'd like to play, and you and I
sure.
could talk about how you made your design decisions, things like that, if you don't
Okay,
mind. If
sure.
everybody there will be patient for a second, I'm going to get that added. Oh, that was fast.
Wow.
And yeah, this is the first one that all those little flying geese. And as I said, she's a pretty amazing featherer.
So yeah, that was actually a swap that I participated in several years ago. And it was a kind of a modern swap using Allison glass fabric.
Uh,
So that was kind of fun to do.
did you start with a circle, or I mean, it's a little small enough. I guess you divided it up as a diamond, really, into corners and just filled
Uh,
the corners. And
yeah,
that circle is really secondary.
I think I did that first. I divided it up, and then I the outside feather wreath sort of just happened after the fact.
Yeah,
I took care of the center section first on that one.
that's really pretty.
Thanks.
I'm gonna point at Robin, and she will advance the slides. Go. Ah, this is a pretty little one.
Thanks. So a little quilt group that I'm part of did a little challenge this past. Well, actually, it was in 2019 we did this challenge, I think, where we were given an old magazine and we had to replicate something in the magazine. And
Uh-huh.
so this was what I chose to replicate. And
Nice.
so yeah, it turned out really cool. And of course, the quilting always makes it for me. So
It does. The quilting's always transformative. Okay,
yeah.
Robin, show us the next one. Ah, I
This
don't know
was a
that we can show
customer
this.
quilt. Yep. And
Mhm.
you can tell I can't do anything without putting feathers in it, right?
Right.
So,
Which is
but yeah,
probably why you're so awesome at them. And you did piano keys, one of my favorites.
yeah.
I want piano keys on just about every border I see.
And I do them a lot on borders because a lot of times it's busy fabric and anything you quilt isn't really going to show up. So,
Right?
yeah, so that works for that.
Good. Okay, Robin. I love this one.
Isn't this fun? So
Yeah.
this was a wedding quilt, or not a it was a gift at a wedding shower I gave to my daughter's best friend. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that was just kind of fun. And I actually have enough of this cut out. I may actually have this pattern cut out in cherry wood fabrics too for me.
Ah.
So I need to make that.
This is one of those quilts where it's as much about the finish as it is about anything else.
It is.
With all that extra space, and
Yeah,
solids or reads as solids. It's just gorgeous texture.
thanks.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. Ah, for some traditional. There's those piano
Yep.
keys again.
There are some, some straight line quilting in there. There's feathers. There's, yeah. So it's kind of a mixture of traditional and a little bit more modern contemporary
Sure,
quilting. So
sure. Okay. I think this is precious.
isn't that cute?
I love this one. I remember when you posted it the first time. This is just so whimsical and sweet.
It is. And the customer was thrilled. And
And
if and the in the class on the 12th, a lot of those designs will be going over.
I was going to say this is really a good representation of what you're teaching. And
It is.
if I love piano keys, my second favorite is checkerboard. So yeah,
There is
and
that.
all those little pairs. That's pretty.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh my stars.
Isn't this awesome?
Oh my stars. Is this your quilt?
No, it was a customer quilt.
Oh
And
my
she
goodness.
actually showed me a picture of the way the pattern maker had quilted it, and it was similar. I told her I would do my best.
Mm-hmm.
It was similar, not all exactly the same, because no two
Mm-hmm.
people quilt exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I
Uh-huh.
tried to keep it, fairly similar. But
That's
yeah, I
some
love
serious,
those flowers in the
that's a whole
background.
lot of pebbling.
It is.
That's
It really is.
but I love the flowers. I love just the effect of the ghosting that you
Right.
kept the colored the star pieces. They're simple and not distracting. I think it's just gorgeous. Let me see if I can get her to click the advance it again. Thank you. Wow.
So this is another customer quilt. A lot of my customers let me do whatever I feel like doing, and so this sort of is what came to me.
Yeah. So I think you left the geese themselves, the triangles, high and proud,
Yes,
and then pushed down the fabric around them.
I did.
Yeah, that's what I thought I saw there. And
I
did you,
did.
in order to get that level of um, depth, that depth of design, do you ever double bat?
I do double bat a lot of the time because a
I'm
lot of my
guessing you did here.
I did. Yeah, I know I did on this one. But yeah, a lot of my customers want to either enter it in a local show or in a national show. And so I always do double bat for that.
Oh, that means you have some ribbons.
I do.
Go ahead, Robin. Again with the texture. I mean, this is
Yeah.
just so cute. This
Yeah,
was a panel?
it was a panel. It was one of the digitally printed panels. And the customer offset it with the ombre fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just phenomenal. It was
Yeah,
at first I wasn't sure what I was going to do because I didn't want to take away from that panel, but
sure.
I think it ends up showing up pretty well.
It does. You really did by keeping the background, which is the actual image, so simple. It actually comes more forward than you would realize. I was really impressed when I saw this one too. Okay,
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome. Ah,
Isn't
I
that
wanted to show
cute?
this one just because of his little swirly beard.
I know, right? The it was actually a kit, or not a kit, it was a panel that was supposed to be for a table runner, but it had a Santa at both ends. And I
Mm-hmm.
just decided to make placemats because I had seen somebody else do that same thing.
Yeah, that's just as cute as it can
Isn't it
be.
cute?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Robin. Uh, so let me
Okay.
just groan for a minute. I need a minute. I love modern stuff.
Well, this hung up for quite a while because I like to hang my quilts and study them for a while because I had no clue what to do to this one.
Yeah.
But I kept on seeing to make a border around it that wasn't there. So I
Right. Because
shadowed and
that border's not in the piecing.
no.
That's all done by the quilting.
Yes. So I threw on my channel locks and I did my border just to make sure everything stayed nice and straight. But it turned out really well.
Yeah, it's really pretty. Did you compete with this one?
No, that was right about the time COVID hit when yeah.
You told me
She
that.
she had wanted to, and I guess
Sure.
I'm hoping when shows open back up that they'll extend the timelines for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it would be fun to see this in a show.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. I've lost my helper. Wait just a second. I'm going to go push the button.
Okay.
Now this was interesting. This one's interesting. Is that a panel in the middle?
The whole thing is a panel.
The whole thing is a panel.
Yep.
Wow. And
So
let your quilting dry the texture of what should have been, that sky and sea and whatnot. You just let your quilting represent that texture.
I did.
That's nice. That's nice. Go ahead.
So this was flannel. So we
Mhm.
decided to keep the quilting fairly minimal.
Yeah.
But I think it turned out pretty good.
I do too. Not every quilt needs to be, quilted to death.
It doesn't.
Some of them I just can't resist, but sometimes something as simple and pure in its design as you've chosen here is exactly right. And it's relatively simple to achieve.
It is. Yeah, that was a fun one to do. Sometimes it's hard for me to think minimally when
Right.
quilting because I'm a quilt it to death type of person, but I always enjoy them once it's done, and I see that it's better to do it that way than quilt it to death.
Yeah. Plus all that flannel. Ooh, I wouldn't want to have
Yes,
to. It needed light. It needed light.
it did.
You're right,
It did.
as usual. Okay, next one.
So
Tell us about
this
this.
was. Go ahead.
No, I was just say, tell me about this one.
Okay. So this was my March Island Batik project.
Mhm.
So I participated in Debbie Brown's Color Blocks Quilt Along, year-long quilt along.
Uh-huh.
And this was I reached out to her ahead of time and she sent me March's pattern. So knowing that I would be released, because I had to get my quilt posted. So, yeah, so I used her pattern and I used her ruler and I made this quilt. So it's a lot. I used a lot of the whole idea for March was to make a scrappy quilt.
Yeah.
So that fit right into with her theme of the scrappy, the color block scrappy quilt along.
And then are those Amish feathers all the way around?
They are.
Yeah,
I did do, and it's only like maybe a 4 or 5 inch border. So they were pretty small.
That is.
But I do love that.
I'm guessing so. That's just stunning. The stitch work, I don't know. The viewer probably cannot see it to the degree that I blew it up. I had the original or a picture and blew it up really really big so I could see it. And the detail is just stunning.
Thanks.
It's just gorgeous. I think that might be the last one. Let's see. Yep, that's the last one. So we'll drop Robin out and go back to you and I. So,
all right.
Thanks for sharing your pictures with us and your talent. We all look forward to you being here teaching, or not. You're not going to be here, but you're going to be here.
I'm going to be here. Yeah, I'll be here teaching there.
There you go. March 12th and 13th. If you'll go to sewbargain.com and go to classes and events, go to March 12th and 13th and sign up for that class. If you have any questions, feel free to call the store and ask me. We will have this all set up, ready for her to stream in on large screen, so you'll be able to see what she's doing, and she's well prepped me to be ready to help her. So we're really looking forward to Jane. It's a big coup for our store to have that talent come and teach domestic quilting, that next step, domestic quilting. So I hope we'll see you soon, Jane. It was really great talking to you, great seeing you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye, dear.
Bye. See you.
Bye.